Welcome to Fluent-ish, the podcast. Season 1 of this show is called The Bilingual Blueprint from Hesitation to Conversation. And you've tuned into episode 7, where we are addressing the question, do I have to study lots of vocabulary? And how much is enough?
If you're new here, I'm Rebecca, founder and author at Little Crab Educational Press. I've been learning Mandarin for over 20 years, and I used to work in these interesting places called video stores.
I'm Lisa, co-owner and graphic designer at Little Crab Educational Press, a French language learner, Rebecca's little sister, and my kids and I have matching haircuts.
We firmly believe that language learning is for everyone, so you won't find any language snobbery here. Whether you want to be fluent or are happy being fluent-ish, just come as you are, whatever your level.
We're here to cheer you on.
This episode of Fluent-ish, the podcast, is brought to you by Flowdesk, our favorite email marketing tool. Flowdesk keeps everything on brand, is easy to use, beautifully designed, and seamless. And Flowdesk does not punish you for growing your business. Start for free and then enjoy unlimited emails and subscribers for one flat rate. Get excited for powerful yet intuitive and affordable email list building. Use the link flowdesk.com/c/littlecrabpress to get 50% off your first year of Flowdesk. Okay, Rebecca, as our resident CELTA-certified language teacher, what would you say to the question, do I have to study lots of vocabulary, and how much is enough? I want to know if memorizing vocabulary lists is really the best way to learn a language, or does focusing on sentence patterns and context lead to more natural fluency? Because if we rarely use words in isolation, wouldn't it make more sense to study how they function within sentences instead?
This is kind of a trick question because, of course, focusing on sentence patterns and context will lead to more natural fluency than pedantically memorizing a dictionary cover to cover. But there are tons of reasons why you can and should still spend some of your time focused on vocabulary. You just can't make it the primary focus of all of your study time, or it won't stick. But there is a direct answer to how much vocabulary you need to learn to be considered fluent. For most languages, you can find the generally accepted number of words you'd need to be considered a beginner, or over being a false beginner, being intermediate over beginner, and high intermediate over intermediate, and then advanced and fluent. For example, take Mandarin Chinese. Chinese language proficiency is often measured by the number of characters a learner can recognize and use. While there's some variation in classification, here's a general breakdown based on common standards like HSK, which is the 汉语水平考试, and also practical usage. Beginner, 250 to 500 characters. That would be HSK 1 to 2. You can read and pronounce basic words and phrases. Intermediate is 1,000 to 1,500 characters, which is HSK 3 to 4. You can read simple texts and understand common sentence structures. High intermediate is 2,000 to 2,500 characters, HSK 5, and you can read newspapers with some difficulty. You can recognize many everyday words and express complex ideas. Advanced would be 3,000 to 4,000 characters, which is HSK 6. You can read most modern texts with occasional help and participate in nuanced discussions. Fluent would be 4,500 characters plus. You can read novels, news, and academic materials with ease and speak naturally in a variety of settings. Native speakers typically recognize 3,500 characters for daily use, while educated adults may know 5,000 to 8,000 characters. However, fluency also depends on grammar, listening, and speaking skills, not just character recognition. So first of all, being able to tally the characters you know can certainly be helpful to track your progress. It's a lot harder to do that with whole phrases and patterns and larger, more variable chunks of material and meaning. And remember, you can find out similar numbers for whatever language you are currently learning as far as how much vocab knowledge puts you at what level. Another reason to study vocabulary is, of course, you have to start somewhere, and you don't know a word until you know a word. So I'm a fan of whatever gets you there. If you understand a word better because you learned it in context because of a pattern, great. But words stick in our brains by taking all kinds of roots to get locked in. Some words need you to make up a mnemonic in order to learn them. And you're only able to use them after finding that perfect mnemonic for you. Some words need to come up in a really good story your friend was telling you, and then you ask them for the meaning of that new word, and that's how it finally stuck. Or sometimes it's a word in a really good story you're reading. Remember, mnemonics are word pictures and tricks that you might write or hear from another person that help you remember words or spellings or things like that. I don't agree that Mandarin and English are as foreign to each other as people often say. Obviously, in terms of history, they technically are, but in terms of certain similar concepts and even sounds, they are coincidentally similar in unexpected ways. But I do agree that Chinese characters put people going from English to Mandarin at a disadvantage over people going from Mandarin to English, in that I figure that there are about 4 ways you could almost but not quite understand a Mandarin word. One of the frustrating things about language learning is when you can't get credit for knowing 75% of a word, because communication will only work when you know it 100%. There are some cases
Right.
where you and another speaker can fudge things and muddle through and work something out, maybe, but other times where you just needed to know the word fully for a certain interaction to work. So there will be many cases where I appear like I know less Mandarin than I actually do, because I might be partway there on knowing a word, but then under the surface, I'm either in a situation where I need the English definitions, the pinyin spelling, and the tones to be shown together. Okay, so then I don't know the word very well. But then I might know the English definition, but still need the reminder of the pinyin and the tones. Or I know how to pronounce the word in Mandarin, but I still need to make the definition in English stick. Or when reading, I see the character, I know the English meaning and the pinyin spelling, so the pronunciation, but I need a reminder about which tones to use because they can change the meaning of the word. It's especially annoying when it's words, which are I think most of the words in Chinese are like double character words, and like 2 syllables essentially. And it's really annoying when you know the tone for one, but not the other. So you're even closer than 75%, right? And it's just, but
It's like that classic thing in French where you think that you're going, oh man, I ate so much, I'm full, but you're actually going, oh, I ate so much, I'm pregnant.
So when people say don't study vocabulary, I think they are stretching that a bit much. The etymology of Chinese characters, English words, other languages, ASL signs, and so on make each one like an onion that just keeps peeling. There's always more to learn and notice and connect between individual words and to give you aha moments. So yes, do explore vocabulary and give time for vocabulary. Just don't expect that if you know 4,500 plus words, you'll be a fluent speaker if during all that studying, you never use long sentences of those words in a coherent conversation before.
Yeah,
Another
fair
case,
point.
pardon me?
I just said, yeah, fair point.
Another case where studying vocabulary is helpful is when you are learning a language in a non-native environment where the community language is not the one you are studying. In that case, you have to, whenever possible, create your own immersion environment. It's hard to make the things you see around your home relate to patterns and grammatical things. There are too many variables to make that work. It's easier to fill your space with your target language by surrounding yourself with words. And that is, at a basic level, how the idea for what we now call the Tortoise Tile Method came to be. We'll explain it more in a moment, but first I have to paint you the picture. Me in my 20s, out of university, so I had no courses left, and was on my own to continue learning Mandarin, living in China for the second time, and wanting to make it count when it came to using my Mandarin. In my apartment, I had a big queen bed and a big blank white wall, and I came up with the best lazy way to learn vocabulary. It worked for me for my Mandarin, and my ESL classroom students loved them too when I used them for teaching English.
So, what Rebecca is talking about is the tortoise tile method. We call it the TT method for short. The TT method embraces the power of slowing down in order to speed up vocabulary retention. It's just a fact that gamifying aspects of things you are studying is likely to help you learn or memorize those things faster than if you chose completely rote learning. The Tortoise Tile Method lets you gamify your vocabulary sets and tailor things in ways that digital tools can be lacking. The tiles transform traditional flashcards into an immersive, visually engaging learning experience.
While I originally designed them for learning Mandarin Chinese, the method is adaptable to any language with a writing system or specialized vocabulary, making it a useful tool for self-studying students, teachers, and homeschoolers. It would even work for native English speakers studying law or medicine in English, for example.
Or like our very Jeopardy nerdy friend who used it to learn the names for all of the elements on the periodic table of elements.
Because she
That was
was
very cool.
gonna be in Jeopardy someday. Okay.
All right. So here's why it works. Unlike digital flashcards, which encourage rapid, shallow memorization, tortoise tiles allow learners to interact with words at their own pace, fostering a deeper retention and quicker recall. When placed in a grid format, which you can't effectively do on a phone screen, the tortoise tiles offer the added layer of capitalization on spatial memory and visual association. We recommend color coding them based on parts of speech. So the colorful vocabulary tiles are also appealing to look at while facilitating memory of links between relevant words where appropriate. The method involves using your body. So people who respond to kinesthetic lessons, in other words, people who have to use their hands or move their bodies in order to learn more effectively, will benefit from tortoise tiles. Now, you don't have to set them up in a grid format. You can choose to get creative with how you place them if that serves you well, but we'll explain them by talking about the tortoise tiles being set up in a grid format on your wall. So the first step is preparing your tortoise tiles. If you were, for example, purchasing one of our curated word set books from the Tortoise Tile Method, then you would already have the, in our case, characters printed on one side. But like we said, we want you to color code them so that they stick in your mind for more reasons than just the straight vocabulary words themselves, but also allowing you to connect them to parts of speech. We have another option where we can create a tortoise tile book for you. It's called Build Your Own Word Set. That's a book that you send us a list of anywhere up to 50 words, and we will actually produce a book for you that you can just very quickly run through cutting out the pages and stick them up on your wall. Or we also have a free guide that teaches you how to make your own tortoise tiles. That's available if you are subscribed to the Fluent-ish supporting materials and resources, but you are not on our full mailing list. You don't have access to them. So we will drop our guide that includes templates if you're learning a character-based language for how to make your own tortoise tiles as a bonus freebie for our podcast listeners in the podcast resources. We also have a YouTube video on the Tortoise Tile Method. So if you want a visual of everything that we're about to talk about, check that out. So once you've got your vocabulary word written nice and big on the front and color coded, you're going to want to flip it up and write any notes for yourself that you need. In the case of Mandarin, you're looking at writing the pinyin most likely, and the English translation. If there are any kind of like memory tricks that you have where you're like, oh, I associate this word with this word, you can put little notes to yourself on the back as well. But it's very key that the vocabulary word be written like this. And I'll explain this more in a sec. It gets attached up here, and then you want to be able to flip it up like that. So you need to write right side up that way. If you're listening to this in just the audio and you don't have the video, you can check out this part of the podcast on YouTube, or just head on over to littlecrabpress.ca, tap that Fluent-ish menu item, and you will see a sign up right there that gives you access to the online location for all of the materials that we have made to support the information we're providing you in the podcast. All right, step 2, set up your grid. Arrange the tiles in a visible, accessible space, such as a wall, allowing for daily passive exposure. Step 3, engage with the tiles. Regularly review the words mentally testing yourself before flipping the tile up to check the answer. And when we say review them, we mean, you're walking by, you glance over, you go, I know what that word means. Or I'm having trouble remembering what that word means. You could take a little peek. But if you're focusing on study utilizing the tortoise tiles, then what you're going to want to do is get yourself real comfy, real cozy somewhere. Get a spot on a bed, a chair, in a wheelchair, on the floor, wherever you want to just park yourself and go over the grid. You can go left to right if that's how your brain is used to reading. You can go top to bottom. You can go across in a grid. You can jump around if you want to. But the key is when you hit a word that you are having trouble recalling, you want to very slowly get yourself out of your parking spot and start to move your body toward the wall. And when you're about to flip that tile over, there is something in your body that connects to your brain and goes ding, ding, ding. I know that word. I don't need to flip that tile over. And of course, you can still flip it and just check that you're right. But there is a thing that happens. I don't know the science behind it. But I mean, basically, it's inertia. We will do a lot of things to not move our bodies. We are of the generation where Alex Mack was a TV show that was on TV when we were kids. And to this day, I still wish that I had the powers that she has to pick things up.
Oh, teleport. Oh, gosh. What is that word? That's going to bug us.
We'll Google it later.
Okay.
I still wish that I had her ability to move objects with my mind, because I'm constantly like, I haven't sat down all day and I just sat down and I don't have my phone or I don't have my water bottle. Your body does the same thing with your vocabulary words. It's like, yes. I just want to stay here. So I'm going to work extra hard. My brain is going to work extra hard to remember the word before I move my body.
It also makes it easier to sort of to know how well you know that group of words, because 100%. You do it one day and you'll remember that you walked over there about 4 or 5 times. And then if you have a day where you only walk over there once or twice, you're going to be proud of yourself. You're going to be excited. It's such a great feeling. It's such a great feeling.
That memory of having walked over there kind of works the same in your brain as, like, if you're over in one spot in a room and you have a thought and then you walk away from that spot in the room and then you're like, oh, what was that thing I was thinking? And you have to walk back over to that spot.
Yeah.
You're going to start triggering, your body's going to start having a muscle memory where this movement meant I remembered that word.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's a thrill. It really is. It's like a nerdy thing to say about vocabulary learning, but that kind of thing juices me up, man. So yeah, basically the tortoise tile advantage is that you have a stronger recall because words might be stored in your memory longer due to their fixed spatial location. Contextual learning, seeing related words together, creates unexpected memory connections. This is one of the reasons we offer curated word sets of tortoise tiles, such as our ABCs of Holidays series, which is 8 books in total. So if you are learning Mandarin or English, then those are for you. Tortoise tiles also offer built-in motivation because they get turned into a vibrant, eye-catching vocabulary display, which makes your target language play a larger role and literally take up more space in your daily environment. And then also they're customizable and they're super versatile. They work for any language or subject from Mandarin to medical terminology, like we said.
So to recap, you can use our ready-made tortoise tile vocabulary books with curated word sets that are ready to go for you if you are learning Mandarin. And pro tip, you can actually use them to learn English too, because if you know the Mandarin vocabulary, by not having the English on your wall, you have to also remember how something is spelled before you walk over there and lift up the tile. You can also create your own tiles with our free templates. And if you don't need the templates for a character-based language, the guide still teaches you with visuals and everything how to create your own tortoise tiles. or you can get a custom book made for you from littlecrabpress.ca, a build your own word set book from our little shop.
In any language.
In any language, including if you're a medical or a law student or, stop by. It's pretty cool. And just like last episode, we have a questionnaire you can go through to help you find ways of improving your vocabulary. So just to kind of close this section out, I do just want to mention, obviously, we are huge proponents of the Tortoise Tile Method. It is something that worked really well for Rebecca. She wasn't in China for a super long time. So she really wanted, like she said, to just take advantage of her time there and do what she could to surround herself in her target language inside her home, so that when she went out into the world, she was in that immersion environment in a very authentic way. She simulated that in her own home as well to enable her to absorb as much vocabulary as she could in a very effective way. So that's going to be the number one suggestion. If somebody says to either one of us, how do I learn a lot of vocabulary? How do I learn vocabulary? That's going to be our first suggestion. But of course, there are other ways that vocabulary can be studied. We spoke in a previous episode about our 7 language skills daily study strategy tracker. And I had mentioned that the front of that book has an example of how to take one piece of learning content and build on it throughout the week through all the 7 language skills. I actually have an example that came up for me. I know I've mentioned 1,000 times already that I use Duolingo for my study. And I just so happened to have gone through this unit that was all about like birthday parties and cake and surprises. And a friend of mine had recommended a podcast for additional listening practice, Real Life French. And, we'd mentioned previously that if you don't have enough vocabulary, then listening practice is really challenging. And I'd been listening to this podcast every night. It's only 6 minutes long. And a lot of it was going over my head, and I was having to like 0.6 speed it. It sounded ridiculous. And then this one episode came up where I knew so much of the vocabulary that they were using in this little, it's a little like sample conversation. I knew so much of the vocabulary. I was like washing my face and brushing my teeth because I listened to it before I go to bed. And I did the kind of like, oh my gosh, I know what they're talking about as I'm brushing my teeth. I just like hung there for a minute. I was like, I can hear so much because I knew the vocabulary from other study that I had been doing.
Yes.
So I'd been studying in an app. And then when I did my listening practice, that vocabulary just like popped for me. And it was the first time I was able to actually speed it up a little bit. They didn't sound like drunk robots. And it was really cool. So we wanted to highlight the Tortoise Tile Method in this episode because we want to, with all of the information that we're giving you, we don't want to be like, you should practice, you should study, and not give you like a tool to do that. That's why we've made the supporting materials and resources that you have access to if you sign up at the website at littlecrabpress.ca. We wanted to give you a practical way of studying vocabulary, but I just wanted to offer the podcast listening exercise as sort of an example of where the vocabulary starts to click in when you put it in the context, like we were saying at the beginning. When you're listening or reading vocabulary in a context that's linked together, that also is another way to really cement it in your brain. There are certainly other things that you can do to study vocabulary, but for us, the Tortoise Tile Method just can't be beat.
Well, and also, I mean, it's specifically granularly about vocabulary learning as opposed to lots of the other ways that you can learn vocabulary, like I said earlier in the episode about learning a word from your friend when they told you a really good story and all sorts of other situations. Those are completely valid, but they're not, a singular kind of takeaway that we can offer in this under this umbrella topic.
An action item.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a little segment where we highlight something in language learning culture, or the like that we love, or just want to go away. In the spirit of our respective second languages, we call this segment oh la la or boo boo boo. If it is something that we love, then we'll give it an oh la la. But if it is something that we want to put an end to, we'll give it a boo boo boo, which means no, no, no in Mandarin, but also conveniently sounds like boo in English. For today's episode, Rebecca will be sharing her thoughts.
So I'm going to share an oh la la. It's another Instagram personality, but I actually first came across him on Facebook. But like I said in a previous episode about somebody else, everyone's online now. So just because I'm telling you about someone on Instagram doesn't mean you can't find them on TikTok or wherever else. This particular person is named James Vukolich. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. He started this video series called Ojibwe Word of the Day. And I think it was every Thursday he would teach you a new Ojibwe word. And as time went by, he ended up doing a whole entire year's worth on whenever the month changed. He would tell you what kind of moon it was. Like February would be called a certain kind of moon, and March and April and so on. He has a very soothing voice and is very like it's such a calm presence, and he's just such a pleasant seems to be such a pleasant person. I've seen a lot of his other content that sort of expanded from his Ojibwe Word of the Day stuff. He's written a book called The Seven Grandfather Teachings, and it has to do with Ojibwe philosophy. But in the case of vocabulary, he's an example of a fun way to learn vocabulary, because even though, yeah, okay, the video is short and they're only showing you one word, but you're hearing their pronunciation and you're seeing the context behind them, presumably if they're showing you the thing. You're more likely to have a more clear memory of that vocabulary word because you have the visuals to attach to it and the audio to attach to it and the context. So it's cool that video provides the much needed context that textbooks can't offer.
This show is sponsored by Shopify. Launch your online store and support Fluentish at no extra cost to you. With our exclusive Shopify affiliate link, you can start with a 3-day free trial, then enjoy Shopify's powerful features for just $1 a month for the next 3 months. By using our link, you gain access to Shopify's robust tools and features, and we earn a commission that helps us continue creating valuable content for language learners like you. Find the link shopify.pxf.io/Fluentish in the episode description. It's a win-win! And so that brings us to our last segment, your joy builder. Before we go, we're going to love you and leave you with a quick recap, a foundational nugget that should serve as your focal point of what you take away from this episode in order to continue to build patience and perspective as a second language vocabulary learner. Words stick in our brains by taking all kinds of routes to get locked in. And it's okay if you don't know the same words as someone who has started before you, or the same time as you, or even after you. It's possible to know a more advanced word than someone else, even if your 6 other of the 7 language skills are worse. It's possible to find yourself in a conversation in your additional language with another learner and find yourself being the vocabulary teacher to someone else for once, even if they are a more advanced learner than you. Textbooks give the illusion of vocabulary being something you can and should absorb in complete block. Once you have passed through one, you have all the words in that block and move on to learn all the words in the next set. But in reality, that's not how words always come to us, and that's okay. Now get out there and talk to someone new.
If you found value in today's episode, you'll find show notes and links at our website, littlecrabpress.ca, which is also home to our little freebie library, and so much more. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you tap that button to keep on breaking new ground in your language learning. Lastly, please take a moment to review the show on your podcast app, or to send this episode to someone you think could use it. It all helps us continue to build a safe space for the fluent and fluent-ish that is free of snobbery and filled with joy. I look smaller than you in this episode. It's funny. We're like,
yeah.
Oh, well, right?
4,500 plus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It was right in the middle of characters after 4,500.
500 plus.
transform traditional flashcards into, I sort of had a stroke on flashcards.
Yeah.
The flashcards.
Normal smile.
Totally normal. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Don't be
act
suspicious.
Don't.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be. Okay. Fluent.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look like a crazy person now because it'll be like normal list,
What?
crazy.
Now, do we have enough banter?
Do we have the jibber jabber?
Fluent-ish, the podcast, is brought to you by Little Crab Educational Press. Thank you to the language learning communities on Blue Sky, Reddit, and Instagram for sharing openly about the struggles that people have to overcome to persevere in the pursuit of becoming fluent or fluent-ish in an additional language. Remember to subscribe, rate, review, and share from wherever you get your podcasts. This show is edited and produced by Rebecca Juten with graphic design and support work provided by Lisa Zach, both of whom also research, write, and host each episode. The theme music is by the Canadian duo Milk Fangs. Hear more from them on bandcamp.com.
Fluentish, the podcast, is recorded remotely between Victoria and Vancouver, which sit in the unceded traditional territories of several Coast Salish nations, across which we are grateful to live and work.